It's your boy Mullah. As we got that five, we back with another one. Playoff P. He said the talk is getting to him, but he don't really care. But then he care. Which one? Pick one.
On a nightly basis, but it's not realistic. But what I can do is do everything else, and so it is what it is. They can judge me on what they want to. That part don't matter to me. I'm gonna go out there and hoop and give everything I got.
All right, Chris Broussard, I'll start with you. What'd you make of Paul George's game and also his comments afterwards?
Well, his game, Jenna, was outstanding. As I told Nick Wright yesterday, he's better than Chris Middleton. All right, and he went out and proved.
Yeah, had to tell you, Nick, wrong. Talking about some Chris Middleton or Playoff P. Who you think we rolling with? Chris Middleton and
did last night. And here's what I liked about what Paul George did. Because while everyone, including myself, was criticizing him for the missed free throws in game 4 and even game 2, and everybody was saying he's got to step up, he's got to play big, he let the game come to him. Heck, Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson were on the broadcast in the first half saying he's got to do more, he's not being aggressive enough. They don't like the way he's going out. And he let the game come to him. And what that did was allow his teammates to shine when they had the hot hand. So Marcus Morris gets 20 in the first half. DeMarcus Cousins gets 10 in the first half. Reggie Jackson has his little run in the fourth quarter and ends up with 23 points. But when it was time to take over in the second half, Paul George was there, as you mentioned, Jenna. 20 points in the third quarter, 10 in the fourth.
What? 20 in the third and 10 in the fourth? What? That sounds like Playoff P.
So his performance was great. As far as the comments, he said it's a fact. Actually, it's fiction. All right. Just off the top of my head, players that are more scrutinized or criticized than Paul George. How about LeBron James? LeBron James is not only criticized more than Paul George, he's the most scrutinized player in the history of the NBA. All right. How about Russell Westbrook? How about Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Ben Simmons now? And some people might even throw in the James Harden. There are other players criticized more than Playoff P. And that leads me to this. Right. When you gave...
Yeah, James Harden, Giannis, people like that.
Yourself the nickname Playoff P. You were asking to be criticized. Like Charles Barkley said, if he went around calling himself Championship Chuck, then he would get criticized because he's
Ian Slap Championship Chuck. Boy.
got no rings. So when Paul George doesn't deliver in the playoffs, people are going to focus on it because of the nickname. And finally, he has to understand it's a sign of respect because it shows you're a great player. Good players don't get criticized consistently. Look, I know Nick thinks that Chris Middleton is the next Kobe Bryant.
Pow, 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 pow. Shots fired. Shots has been fired. Nick, wrong.
But nobody else does. So Chris Middleton doesn't get criticized like this, all right?
Shots fired, Nick. What's he going to do?
Chris Middleton, if he goes out tonight and scores 14 points on 5 of 26 shooting, nobody's going to really care because it's Chris Middleton.
We talked about it.
Paul George being
criticized
consistently is a sign of respect.
It's the line of demarcation between star and superstar. It is, can you have a bad game and escape criticism? If you can, you're not a superstar. Right. And so I agree with you on the Chris Middleton point. But I actually, and let me say this before we talk about the comments. That was the best game of Paul George's playoff life last night. They had to have it. He was 75%, 30 second half points, a career high in points. And by the way, he had the best game of his playoff life a couple weeks ago, game 5 against Utah. So even though this series he had been wildly inefficient, he was still producing in other ways for his team. And last night was literally the best playoff game he's ever played. But I do think Paul George is criticized differently than other guys because, and I, of course, listen, LeBron is almost in his own category for irrational criticism. But here's the thing, Brandon, and I think Wildes agrees with me, but I heard him almost sighing with something Broussard said, so I'm going to pluck his brain. Here's the thing. Paul George, it's not that he's criticized. He's made fun of. And that's the difference. And he knows it. Paul George is mocked differently than other stars are. Now, some of this he has done to himself. He has had some embarrassing off-the-court stuff, nothing illegal or criminal, just embarrassing in like the Twitter era. His comments after Game 7 last year, where it's like, I don't think it was a must-win season for us. Like, they lend themselves to the criticism.
I disagree.
Some of it, Brandon's bad luck.
Good, Nick.
Let me just explain this real quick. Some of this is bad luck, which is he had a Gatorade commercial debut of him hitting a game-winning shot at the exact time a playoff series happened where he airballed a game-winning shot. So, like, that commercial was running during the game. This is back when he was in Indiana. When the game-winning the commercial set up, and then it happened in the game, and he airballed it. So some of it's bad luck, but I do think he's made fun of in a different way than, like, Russ is criticized. Nobody makes fun of Russ. And I think Paul George has been made fun of, which is what I think he's responding to.
I 100% disagree. I don't think it's about Paul George. I think it's about this era. This is the social media era. So everyone is turned into a meme. Hell, Michael Jordan is turned into a meme, the crying emoji or whatever the hell you call it. And then there's other people out there. So this is about a generation and not about a player or a position. Anybody that goes out there and they put themselves in a bad spot, like you said, you got a commercial debuting and you're hitting a game winner and then you end up doing the opposite. You're on the other end of the spectrum. You're probably going to get made fun of. And then when you're in this position and you guys make the noise that you made when you left OKC and Kawhi left Toronto and you guys came here and you underperformed, you're opening yourself up to that. And this is just the era. But here's the thing. Playoff P was sensational last night. And as I was watching this game, I'm thinking about, some of the guys who took advantage of the moment. As a player, I was always looking for my run. I knew my stats were going to stack up with some of the greats, of all time. But I was looking for that one run, that 1 year, that one signature play, that one signature game. I never got it. But when you go back to 2008, Larry Fitzgerald, they went to the playoffs and then they end up going on a run and made it to the Super Bowl. But Larry Fitzgerald, week after week after week, was sensational. Yep. And then now we were talking about, can he potentially be the greatest receiver of all time? He's a Hall of Famer right now. You go to 2014, a guy on this team, he doesn't have to look far. Look at the end of the bench and you see, or maybe look in the box, Kawhi Leonard, because he's not on the bench right now. Look at Kawhi Leonard, 2014. If you go back to that series when he was with the Spurs, he was locked down. And everybody was like, who is this claw guy? Who is this Kawhi Leonard? And from that moment, he just started ascending. So when you look at Paul George, he needs to escape. He needs to slay the Suns. He needs to get to the finals. If he does that, we're going to look back at this moment and say that was his moment. That was his run.
It's a great point.
Okay. I agree with you, Brandon. He did score 41 last night, and still people have their knives out for him. But here's what I disagree with Broussard about. All the guys that you mentioned, Broussard, LeBron and KD and Harden and Russ, they have people that ride for them. No one really rides for Paul George until now, my friend. Old KW is here. He's number one in the Paul George fan club. Somebody's got to do it. There's open real estate, and I'm taking it. So first, let me address Boogie Cousins, because Boogie's like, I don't know where all this slander is coming from. Rule 1 of the Paul George fan club is we are truth tellers. So first of all, let's put up the truth about Paul George and where some of this slander comes from. Look, most game shooting, 25% or worse. Hey, it's not great. On the plus side, some other awesome names up there like Russ, Harden, Iverson, and Pippen. And now here is we put this on a flag, and it's flying outside of our Paul George fan club headquarters. Look at this, Broussard. So you've never heard this. Paul George is having a great run, a la KD, Kobe, and MJ. So do I think the slander for Paul George is a little bit too much? I do. I also think, Broussard, that this is the perfect opportunity for him to sort of shake any old school. You can't get it done. You know, you don't quite have the clutch gene. Shake it all off without Kawhi there. You have a chance here. Ty Lue is going to have a great plan for you. He has an opportunity here to either like show out, have a big game and lose, or if he could get to the finals, I think he goes to another level of superstardom.
No, I think you're absolutely right, Wiles, and I'm going to take it a step further. I've said this week that he's probably a future Hall of Famer. If he continues to play like this, even if they lose, but certainly if he leads them to the finals, win or lose at that level, I think he seals himself as a future Hall of Famer. Like, this is the type, Brandon said it, this is the type of performance where you're like, wow, it is a coming out performance. He already had a great resume. He already had some great playoff games for all the failures as well. But that game last night, and if he were to win this series without Kawhi Leonard coming back from 3 down, not to mention the other 2 comebacks against Chris Paul,
sure,
I think this.
Well, guys, there you have it. It's your boy Mullah this week at that 5 playoff P. He beat the number 1 seed last round. And if he bring them back from a 3-1 number 2 seed and go to the finals, ain't no telling what happened in the finals. But hey, y'all gonna have to get up off the boy. He gave himself a name for a reason. All right, we'll be back with another one. I'm out.